I've always wanted to be a journalist, a broadcast journalist, actually, ever since I was about 7 or 8 years old. I used to run around the house with a hairbrush in my hand, pretending like it was my microphone. I'd never seen anyone on the news like me growing up, but I was about 10 when I noticed that there was this beautiful black woman on the news. She was a sports anchor, and her name was Jane Kennedy. She was also a model. And when I saw her, I knew that there was a possibility that I could do this thing, that I could actually be on television and or radio, in front of the camera or in front of the mic. And so when I was in high school, I became the newspaper editor, and then I went away to college and actually landed my own radio show on campus. I did that for a couple of years, and once I graduated, I was determined to figure out how I could become a broadcast journalist. My major was broadcast journalism. I went to a fantastic school, Rutgers School of Journalism, but this was a long time ago, and it was really, really difficult to find those opportunities that would allow me to be who I always wanted to be. And what I did was I pivoted. I actually went into politics, which is a blood sport. I don't recommend it for anyone. But I went into politics and I got to know so many people, thousands of people. I shook thousands of hands and I lost. It was a devastating loss. But I realized later that it wasn't for me, because shortly after that campaign that was just so hard and so overwhelming, shortly thereafter, I got a phone call from ABC7 News Channel 8 saying that they were looking for a political commentator. And it was just a one-shot deal, but it was my shot. And I showed up to the news station, and it was just me. I was the only woman. I was the only person of color. And they wanted some feedback on the Iraq War. And luckily, I was a news junkie, so I knew that I could definitely take this challenge on. And I hoped that once I did this, that it could lead to something even more. And so what happened was the audience loved me. The viewers loved me. The phones lit up. And the next thing I know is that one-shot deal turned into 14 years as a political commentator. And my dream had come true. I was in front of the camera. I was actually a broadcast journalist. Once that show was canceled, I got an opportunity to host and produce on SiriusXM Radio. And I just know that that little 8-year-old girl who had the brush in her hand, pretending like it was a mic, was now a grown woman doing exactly that same thing and living my best life. I was reading my will to my adult daughters because I thought it was the end. I knew it was the end of my life, and I felt life leaving my body every day. I had dropped down 35 pounds in 2 weeks. I couldn't walk, and I looked like I was emaciated. I felt like God was calling me home. It was 2020, and I had caught COVID at the very beginning of the year. There were so many people saying that it was fake news, but I was dying at home. I'd been hospitalized 3 times. I knew it wasn't fake. I just had hoped that it wasn't my time, but I had accepted it. And my daughters, they just refused to give up on me. They took me back to the hospital. And that's when I realized that I was going to make it after being there for 4 or 5 days. I realized that I was going to make it. I had shut down my business. I had shut down everything because my only goal was to live another day, was to survive, was to see my grandchildren. And I realized that life is so fleeting that we cannot ever take it for granted. And so Me shutting down my business was not as hard as I thought it was going to be, because me shutting down my life was a real thing. Later, I understood that God had other plans for me. I never lost my faith, even though all of those challenges were the hardest I'd ever endured. But I kept my faith, and I prayed every day and every night, asking God to please save me, to please help me. And with the help of Him and my children and my mother, I made it. I made it. I never lost faith. And no matter what the challenges have been in my life, that's been the one reoccurring factor, is to have faith and never give up. I'm just so glad I didn't. God is good. I've learned never to burn bridges. I was about 25, 26 years old, so it's been some time ago. And I fell out with a very dear friend of mine. And we were, rising politicians at the time. I'd gotten into politics, and we ran this, the whole game. We had all of the folks that we needed on our side to win in this game. And that was tough back then, especially being women, especially being Black women. But we came to an impasse, and we just couldn't agree to disagree. And it cost us our friendship. Not only did it cost me a very dear friend, it cost me friends, because people took sides. They took sides. A lot of people took her side. A lot of people took my side. And people even tried to bring us back together and have us sit down and talk and work it out. And we just couldn't. We were so passionate. I was so passionate in what I felt was right, and she was so passionate in what she felt was right. And when you're young, you feel like you are invincible and that everything that you're doing is the right thing and everybody else is wrong. And looking back, I just realized that I should have stepped away for a minute, agreed to disagree, and come back to my friend. Friendships, true loving friendships, are so hard to come by. And I've learned that that was a bridge I should never have burned. To this day, we're still not friends. We've gotten married, we've raised families, we could have been in each other's lives. She had 2 daughters, I had 2 daughters. But because I was dead set on being right and insisting that she was wrong, I was willing to burn that bridge, to walk away from that friendship. And now I realize that it was a bridge that should not have been burned. I realize that if that person is a good person, and it's not anything having to do with moral character or something that's bringing something into your life that's destroying you or your family, which none of it was, then you have to realize the value of friends. We could have been power brokers by now. We could have run the whole state of Maryland, to be quite frank. That's how bad to the bone we were. And hindsight is 20/20. But I would always say, never burn bridges. What would I tell my 21-year-old self? There's a lot I would say, because back in the day when I was 21, I just finished college. I had my own place. I had a real nice sports car. I was nice and thin and fine. I'm sorry to say, I was fine. Okay, y'all, I'm going to put it that way. And I was partying. I was in all the clubs and just living my best life. But when I look back, I think what I would tell myself is, one, just don't sweat the small stuff. it's going to be okay. Sometimes we think, molehills are mountains when they really aren't. And when I look back, I say, I can't believe I was, stressing over something so small. It almost always gets taken care of and almost always works itself out. So that's one thing. What else would I tell myself? And would I listen at 21? Probably not, but I would definitely tell myself, make certain that you keep people in your life that love and have your best interest at heart. Sometimes people come in your life and they don't mean you well. And when you're young, you don't always see that. But that's one thing I would definitely do, because I ran into some folks that didn't mean me well. And luckily, I do have a bit of discernment. But when you're 21, you're just out there having a good time. You're not really thinking about those types of things. And I would certainly say to 21-year-old Sharrarne, keep good people in your life, people that love you, people that care about you, care about what happens to you. And then the last thing, what would I say? The last thing is, it is really, really important to start networking and making connections early in life. Really in high school, in college, I tell my daughters, make connections. You never know how those people can help you or how you can help them. Start making connections with folks at a young age, because in 10 years, 15 years, those people can be the president. They can be decision makers, and you've kept in touch with them. You've networked and you've seen and received opportunities from these people because you've stayed in their lives and they have stayed in your life. And back then, I didn't realize the value of that, the value and the importance of powerful people in your life, making connections early, looking at the big picture. And so that's definitely what I would tell my 21-year-old self. And maybe don't party so hard. We have a lot of things in store coming up with Morton Media, my company. We already produce several episodes a week for SiriusXM Radio, and we are moving into television. We are going to be working with a lot of digital platforms, because we realize that maybe people can't get in front of television, but they can certainly get in front of a camera, and we can surely get them in front of viewers and listeners who want to hear what they have to say. I have almost 1 million listeners on SiriusXM Radio, and so to bring people onto those platforms to talk to my listeners or to produce radio ads for those folks, which is what we do all the time, to get them to amplify their brand. We're going to be doing even more of that. We're going to allow so many people to have an opportunity to address folks on a global scale. And so we are really excited about that. One of the other things that we're doing is, I just started this organization a couple of years ago called Black Door Society. And it was all about scaling women-owned businesses, taking those women from 6 figures to 7 and 8 figures. But a lot of times people are like, how do you do that? How can I do that? Well, in 2 to 3 years, we're going to have contracts. We're going to be working for governmental agencies and entities. We're all going to be on television and radio. We're going to be writing and producing. We're all going to be working together as one organization to increase the bottom line for women who are having a tough time in this market, especially women of color. Black Door Society has done so much in 2 years. We even had the First Lady of Maryland come and congratulate us on so much that we've done for women. We intend to do more of that, but the bottom line is making the money. All of us really understand the power of connection, the power of networking, the power of opportunities. And with Black Door Society and Morton Media, that's exactly what we're focusing on. We're focusing on expanding those things, expanding those opportunities so that we can all make more money. We can all expand our contracting opportunities and abilities and make life better for everyone, everybody's families, We just want to leave legacy. We want to leave a legacy. So in 3 to 5 years, you can expect a lot from us, from Morton Media and Black Door Society. We're working hard to do those things, and we hope you'll join us on this journey. Why do people hire my company, Morton Media? Because we understand the assignment. We were fortunate to get a client to come to us who really needed our help. Their client was a huge one. It was the government, the United States government, and they needed a message to be distributed nationwide via radio ads. And they needed this message delivered ASAP. There was a lot on the line. There was a lot going on behind the scenes. There were a lot of I's that hadn't been dotted and T's that hadn't been crossed. And they came to us, to Morton Media, because they knew that we could do the job. We said, yeah, we can do it. We can help you. We sat down with them. We looked at what the problem was, and we solved it. We understood that their message needed to resonate with a nationwide audience. We needed to write that message and make sure that it resonated with a nationwide audience. We had to get that message produced and distributed in a matter of days. We didn't have a lot of time, but we knew what we were doing because we'd done it before. We got it out there. The message hit home. It was a home run, and the client is very happy, and we're going to be doing business from here until. We know what our clients need. We know all about communication. We know how to train our clients on how to train their staff on how to communicate. We know how to write. We know how to speak. We know how to tape. We know how to do everything there is to do when it comes to communicating and getting your message to resonate. So Morton Media, we always understand the assignment. Wow, what have I enjoyed about today? Working with Shay Brown and his team has been phenomenal, amazing. Media Expertise, from the time you walk in the door, they make you feel at home. They make you feel like family. And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't love that? And I love to dance. They played all of the songs that I love. And so if you ever need a media expert who has all the bells and whistles and makes you feel like, hey, you're at home, then you definitely need to work with Shay Brown and his team. They have been simply the best. Wow, what have I enjoyed about today? Working with Shay Brown and his team has been phenomenal, amazing. Media Expertise, from the time you walk in the door, they make you feel at home. They make you feel like family. And so if you ever need a media expert who has all the bells and whistles and makes you feel like, hey, you're at home, then you definitely need to work with Shay Brown and his team. They have been simply the best.